the big news from the last few days has been the fact that the World Anti-Doping Agency are appealing against the decision for Jannik Sinner, who was tested twice positive for a banned substance, and WADA are now looking for him to get a suspension between quote here between 1 and 2 years. The appeal is to the Court of Arbitration for Sport, CAS. Sinner has expressed his surprise that WADA have effectively kind of come after him. But Chris, you have been reading into this. You have been reading into the report as usual.
Yes.
What are your kind of... I feel like it's very easy to get bogged down in all the information out there, but what are the main highlights of this next evolution of this case? And it's caught Sinner off by surprise. Do you think also it's caught fans off by surprise as well? Or
there was a little bit of warning from WADA in the sense that there was an online celebration from Jannik Sinner fans who were saying that they had actually missed their deadline to appeal this, and WADA put out a statement saying that they actually had longer because it's when you first receive the information about the ban. And actually, WADA do have, I think it's a week longer or maybe 2 weeks longer than any other institution who can actually appeal this. So when they said there's still time for us to appeal it, it did seem like a bit of a strange thing to say if you weren't going to appeal it. So I was expecting them to appeal the decision. What's interesting about what they've appealed is it's around the no fault or negligence line. And this is significant. It's not about whether he doped intentionally to gain a performance enhancing advantage. That is not what's in question here, although I have seen numerous things online which are looking at clostebol and how long it takes to leave your system. The experts are divided. And Joel, I think we can agree we are not experts in how long it takes clostebol to leave
We're just reading the news articles like fans, reacting like fans. This is our opinion.
I would say when it comes to this, the thing that I never thought made sense about this was how could you say that Jannik Sinner and Jannik Sinner's team were at no fault or negligence? And that is exactly what WADA is saying. And I think that is so significant because when they talk about this, if you have no fault at all, that means that your team and everyone involved did everything they possibly could to ensure that they were clean and this was something outside of their control. But the difference between the lines is no fault or no significant fault. And I think that what WADA is saying is there was no significant fault, and the inclusion of that word actually means that the ban does apply. And this was the case with Maria Sharapova, who bore no significant fault. She was still banned. She received an email telling her a substance was going to be banned. She still took it. She did say it was for medical reasons. That was what was bought. Everyone agreed with that at the time. I mean, the court of public opinion maybe didn't, but then she did get the ban because it was no significant fault. So the reason why they're going after this is because it requires the team also to bear no fault. When what's very strange about this is that his fitness coach, who was aware of this, who actually picked up this product, Ferreira, then handed it to his physio. And they're saying he didn't tell the physio that this was something that was banned. It says on the box, bigger than anything, it was banned. And then the physio used it and then treated Jannik Sinner. And part of it is making sure that your whole team is aware of all the rules and adhere to them. And that's where the no significant fault comes in, because these two people should have known better. And if you are running the tightest of tight ships, this should not be something that could happen, because especially in Italy, it's so prevalent, the use of clostebol.
Do you think Jannik Sinner should be responsible and held accountable for the actions of his team? Or do you think it's fair for him to say, hang on, these people aren't me. How can I be responsible for what they do?
I think based on the balance and the fact that nobody is saying that Jannik Sinner is at, well, no more than significant fault. They said no fault so far. I think he is not trying to gain an advantage from the amount that was in his system. I don't know enough about the science to say, but when it comes down to the rules are rules for a reason. And that was why I had an issue with it. It didn't feel right that you could say there was no fault here. And so definitively and so quickly, when clearly there was negligence that took place. And I think when it comes to the reasons for it being that way, otherwise you could just have people testing positive and getting reduced sentences because their team did it. It wasn't them. But you have to be responsible for your team. And if you have the luxury of having a team, you have to make sure that they are also adhering to the rules as every player should. So I don't really want to see Jannik Sinner banned for 2 years. Of course, I don't want that. I don't think it's good for tennis. I think all of this is a very bad look for tennis.
No.
Especially because WADA aren't asking for any of the results to be taken away from him. The US Open will never be in question. Every result he has, apart from the results that he's already been stripped of in Indian Wells and the prize money, the points, will be staying. So that's not changing. But it feels like this is happening at a time when WADA are also not pursuing other people who have been having performance enhancing benefits, such as the Chinese swimming team, who did medal in a previous Olympics really recently. And that was brushed under the cover. So it feels like I understand why they're going after Jannik Sinner on this reason, on this clause. I do think they are right. He does bear no significant fault. But I also think it's a tough one because banning the world number one at this point is a terrible look for tennis, especially when there's no performance enhancing advantage. But was it his responsibility and his team's responsibility as the rules currently stand? Yes. So therefore, I think they've got a very good case for it. And I do agree that he should be held to account for it.
And it's interesting because I think when this kind of broke, there was all the talk about kind of preferential treatment. Was he getting special treatment as the world number one? And I think, you know, the World Anti-Doping Agency have come in. They don't care who Jannik Sinner is. I feel like if they feel like they've got a case or something feels a bit off, regardless of who that is, they want to see accountability and want to pursue it. Hence why
they tend to go a bit harder, don't they, Joel? Yeah, I think with Simona Halep, they pushed for a lengthier ban. That also ended up at the Court of Arbitration for Sports. That's also where this is going to end up. But I guess like from the side of things that we've talked about, do you think that a ban would be something that, I mean, do you think it should happen? Do you think it should? I mean, I can see a reduced ban, a shortened ban. I would not want a 2-year ban. I would not want a year ban, but I do think a period of ineligibility wouldn't be a bad thing here because people have to be held responsible within the rules that currently exist. No one is above the rules. Well, some people are clearly, but that's not Jannik Sinner.
I think there is like everyone comes away from taking something that they've learned from the situation. I guess it would be a much more bitter pill to swallow if Jannik Sinner has to take time off because of something he would have felt that, wasn't his fault is what I imagine. There's a part of me that sort of just wants to get on, with the tennis, and it's amazing to me, I guess, that these things can happen whilst like he's still playing.
It's hard to enjoy the tennis. Are you finding that? Because there's this sort of thing waiting, will he still be able to play? Are we okay with this? Are we not okay with it? There's no answer.
Is he going to play the next Grand Slam? Yeah.
Will he defend Australia? Will he defend his US Open title? Big questions.
Because he's such a big, component now of the season. Him and Alcaraz split the 4 Grand Slams, and I don't know. And I guess that to me is the sort of my feeling now is, okay, how long is this actually going to take? Because, I always feel like with these things, they take forever and ever. And are we going to be talking about this in 10 months' time, or are we going to reach a resolution very quickly? And, arguably that would be the best for all parties, because if something does get put in place, it can happen now before the new season starts with a Grand Slam taking place. Maybe he misses the World Tour finals, but that's, it
does make me think, if you were Jannik Sinner, would you rather take a 4-month ban now, deal with it, and then get back on with tennis, or have this hang over your head for all this period of time and then get banned for some period of time, and then you also might have to have, I don't know, further questions about all of this? Or would you rather just, take it as you say and then get on with things? Because I mean, I do think credit is where credit's due. For him to continue to perform the way that he has done, we said this at the time, to win the US Open with all of this hanging over your head, so much focus, so much negativity, and such a cloud over tennis, and just to rise above it all and produce some of your best tennis. He didn't get the win today, but Carlos Alcaraz did say, and made a point to say, I respect you a lot as a player, but even more as a person. And I think the people that know him have all said that they don't think this is the case, that this was deliberate, and the doping side of things has gone. But there is this question of, can he really be saying, I'm so innocent in this that my team were the perfect model of this? Well, they're Italian and they didn't know about the biggest doping issue in all of Italian sport. It's very strange to me, this whole it's a bit of a circus at this point.
Yeah. I mean, and you know, these quotes taken from Sinner. I mean, he said, "I'm very disappointed and also surprised of this appeal, because we had 3 hearings and all 3 hearings came out very positive for me. So, you know, I was not expecting it. I knew it a couple of days ago that they were going to appeal. That today it's gone official. But yeah, it's a surprise. So it sounds like it's gone one way. He thinks he's come out of it. It's
a very well-worded thing, isn't it? You know, we'd like to move on was his statement, and then WADA said, "Hang on a minute, you don't decide that.
We're not moving on just yet."
Exactly.
So, I guess I feel like, to me, I'd still say he's learned his lesson, and I think like we can get on with it. But I think WADA want, as I say, that extra level of accountability that they don't feel like there has been that so far, and it's going to be ultimately up to Cass to understand.
Yeah.
Has Sinner learnt his lesson? Does he need that extra, time off to really kind of hammer home this point, and arguably probably make a bit of a point that they can have impact on sport, and this is obviously a very high profile case.
We'll leave us with one thing of saying that when we talk about responsibility for your team and whether that should be Sinner's responsibility, think about just how few failed tests there are in elite tennis at the moment. And if we do believe it is transparent testing and that the test results are reported and are accurate, then it's not necessarily a case that this is very prevalent, that teams are doing all sorts of things. It does feel like this is a particular circumstance where the team has not done the right thing. And I do question whether that is the responsibility of Jannik Sinner, because you do have to make sure that everyone around you is completely on it with this. And one thing from that report that was said, which I'm not sure I necessarily buy, was that Jannik Sinner asked, apparently, his physio when he saw the cut, "Are you being treated for anything for that cut?" And the physio said he wasn't. And then they said that he didn't ask him again. But to be honest, I'm not even sure that would necessarily have happened. So I think it's this whole thing of, then you construct a narrative about how you could or didn't know. And I would just rather they just be like, look, it was in my system, my team are responsible for it, and you have a standard ban, and then that's done.
Yeah. Well, I mean, we'll see. I mean, it still feels like he's got the respect of the locker room, because Alcaraz has said, talking about Sinner, "I respect you a lot as a player, but even more as a person." So it still feels like he's got the respect of the locker room, which maybe is also quite kind of telling whether there is sympathy to this case that maybe doesn't exist.
Maybe not from Nick Kyrgios.
Maybe not from Nick Kyrgios, granted. But
he's not in the locker room though, is he?
That's very true. But yes, we will have to wait and see. But there's more to be told, I think, from this story. And although Jannik Sinner wanted, I think, a full stop on this, a few weeks ago, it certainly feels like there's a little bit more. There's a little bit more to come, and ultimately, Cass are going to have the deciding vote on what
in 2029. We'll get a hearing.
2029, exactly.